angels willing to hold us in their arms. When our worth was stone, our ashes, and we both passed on. Let forever mean forever and carry on.
Good afternoon. The media has been an absolute frenzy today. And so we're going to talk about probably one of the biggest threats to not only us as Americans, but also abroad for all of humanity. Probably our biggest threat, probably the most dangerous thing that there is. You might be shocked at the answer. Real quick, let's do our housework real fast, and then we'll go from there. As far as Watchman news updates, didn't get any more done on the Kratom site today because I'm waiting. We're just waiting to get the packaging, labels, some more capsules, and then we'll be set to start selling Kratom on that particular site. No real updates as far as that's concerned. I do have a update on the potatoes that I planted. They are sprouting, and the sprouts are looking, at least from what I can tell, like extremely healthy. So I'm really excited about that. I didn't have 100% faith when I planted those potatoes because they're just store-bought potatoes from like the kind that you buy to eat. And I didn't have 100% faith behind I was going to get them to grow. But man, are they taking off. So anyway, there will probably be a little video I show during tomorrow's show that will have the little bitty sprouts sticking up out of the soil. I'm excited about it. I just had to get something growing. And so I'm really excited. I can't have a garden here, but the landlord was cool enough not only to allow me to have a 55-gallon barrel, but he actually had a barrel at home that he had brought, and we cut the top off of it, and I'd put some soil in it, and again, just store-bought potatoes, and sure enough, they're sprouting, so I'm real excited about that. So, other news, Amazon, it's still going to show from yesterday because it's kind of a day lagged, but we did make it to $41.41 last month. Again, thank you very much for all of those to participate and use the Amazon link. That link, if you are so inclined, is in the description of the videos. It is also, we've got search boxes at thewatchmannews.com where you could go in here and put in whatever you want. I've searched all kinds of goofy things on the show before. I have no idea. I always think of something goofy to put in this search box real quick to show you, and for some reason I can't think of anything at the moment. Usually I can come up with some pretty stupid, goofy stuff. But yeah, just you can use the search box, search whatever you want. We'll just put in fire starter, and it will open up your Amazon page with the search box where you've got the items or whatever, or you can put in whatever item you want. Anyway, you make a purchase and that will go our way, and we heavily appreciate it. A little bit goes a long way with us, and so when we have a bunch of people that use that Amazon link, they throw us on average about 6 to 8% of the value of the sale, and so a lot of sales add up, and again, it's much appreciated. So that is one way to help us out. We are not YouTube supported. We demonetized voluntarily from YouTube, so we are not getting any income that way. There is one other way to help support our mission, and that is the mission. And that is you can either go to thewatchmannews.com/donate, or you could go to the website itself at thewatchmannews.com, click the donate button. That will open a PayPal donate page, and it will say Transforming Disabilities at the top of that. That is us. It will say purpose, the Watchman News donation. You don't have to have a PayPal account in order to donate that way. You can donate with a debit or credit card without a PayPal account. So, again, another way. It is highly appreciated. So anyway, let me go ahead and get on with the topic. I really hate doing self-promotion type of stuff, but it is what it is, and, you know, at least we're not spending a half an hour doing it, or like Alex Jones, you know, spending 15 minutes every 10 minutes advertising. So anyway, again, the media has been in a very, very big frenzy today. And I had mentioned about something being the biggest threat to not just Americans but to all of mankind, and that would be the media. The media is a very, very dangerous weapon if used that way. Okay, a lot of people, you've got this big gun argument going on, you know, to where those are. You know, you talk about AR-15s and anti-gun people that say, "Oh, those are murder weapons. Those are assault weapons." And you know, you've got the pro-Second Amendment people going, "No, it's just a rifle. It's, you know, it's not an assault rifle unless it's used in an assault." Well, that's a very good point, right? It could also be a defense rifle. If you needed a nail hammered in and you didn't have a hammer, guess what? It would be a hammer rifle, right? Whatever you choose to use that for is going to be the descriptive word for what it is. In and of itself, though, guess what? It's just a rifle. Well, media is the same way. So you could have defense media, you could have assault media, you could have weaponized media, and that's what we are seeing today. Today we are seeing weaponized media, and it's dangerous. And I couldn't urge you anymore. Get ready. Because they are on a push that they are not going to back off of. And each time they take a step forward, guess what? Because of their ego and pride and ignorance, they will refuse to take a step back. And that's where we're at, folks. We've got people having a big pissing contest, and the problem is, it's you and I's asses at stake here, not theirs. And that's bothersome to me. That's extremely bothersome to me. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm sure many of you have heard that Russia has nukes in Venezuela. Well, let's step back for a second and let's just look at the timing of this at first, okay? So yesterday, pre-failed coup, Russia didn't have nukes in Venezuela. Today, post-failed coup, now Russia has nukes in Venezuela. You see how that works? Interesting, the timing there, isn't it? Huh. Now, there was also some other stuff in the news. You may or may not be aware that the FAA has restricted flights over Venezuela. So all American pilots, right, or commercial operators of American aircraft and companies cannot fly below 26,000 feet if they're over Venezuela. Anybody want to look up why that would be? Why they would want people to be 26,000 feet or above? Why is that number so important? I hope you're taking me serious when I say get ready. Because they are making the necessary moves in order to start lobbing things into that country. The reason you want planes to be 26,000 feet and above is so they don't get hit by an intermediate missile. I believe it's an intermediate missile. Not the long range. The long range, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, they go up into space. But your shorter range missiles don't go up that high. So I would say it would probably be safe to bet that they're talking something along the lines of cruise missiles, like maybe Tomahawks. pay close attention because they're pushing this hard. Now, I don't know if this was done 100% on purpose or whether Fox News are just the typical idiots that they always are. Now, don't think I'm a friend of CNN. I think they're all idiots. In fact, there is only one person that is in mainstream news that I can even stand listening to, and it happens to be the very individual that was doing the interview where this whole nuclear weapons thing got started. And so I wanted to take a look at that, okay, because I think it's important. I think it's all important. Now, when I see the headlines, okay, it's pretty intimidating. When I see headlines like this, Cold War clone, Russia has secretly installed nuke missiles in Venezuela, U.S. politician claims in chilling echo of Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay? Wow. Right? Sounds compelling, doesn't it? First off, what business is it of ours, unless they, intend to shoot them into this country? I mean, seriously. How many countries do we have nuclear missiles in? How many? And how close to Russia? Do you hear Russia crying? No. No. And I even heard, was it, I don't know if it was Bolton or who it was, I heard making a statement today about this. Oh wait, no, it might be the actual video I'm going to be showing you. Might be that video. There was talk, yeah, it was, come to think of it. That was talking about, well, we don't want them to do the Western Hemisphere, blah, blah, blah. Well, then maybe we need to get the hell out of the Eastern Hemisphere. Would that not be fair? Where do we get this idea that we're the world's police, that we should have absolute control over every single country and everything that every single country on this planet does? Where the hell do we get that we are the ruler of the world? Because that is a very dangerous precedent, and it is your life and my life that's at risk because of these asshats with ego issues. Now, I'm not good with that. I'm not good with that at all. The possibility that I may lose my life, the possibility that children may be being sent to die in a rich man's war, all because some jackass in a really, really nice luxury house wants to beat his chest. I've got an issue with that. A big issue with that. Now, Bolton and Pompeo and others have already come out and said that this whole Venezuelan deal is over oil. Did we forget that? I didn't. It was only a month, maybe 2 months ago? I know for a fact that those were Bolton's exact words, that we were there because of the oil. He said that in between, we're there because of the poor Venezuelan people, the victims of socialism. And folks, don't drink the Koolaid. Don't drink the Koolaid. I showed you yesterday? How those people absolutely do not look like they're being starved. They've got rather new, nice-looking, clean clothes. Come on. We need to knock it off. And if they want to be socialists, so be it. Again, who the hell are we? Who the hell are we? I mean, maybe we need to focus on our capitalism and get it back towards capitalism instead of crony capitalism so that the middle class stands a chance again. How about we do that? This is ridiculous. And what's even more ridiculous, guess who pays for it? economically, financially. You and I. You and I. This is unbelievable and unacceptable on any level. But to go back to my original point, if Russia puts nukes in Venezuela, guess what? That is Russia's business, as well as Venezuela's business. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't know about it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be prepared to defend ourselves against it. Let's not be dumb. But to sit here and think that only we have the right to have that capability so close to another country and they don't have the right to have that capability so close to ours, that's ignorant. I get it. Man, everybody's got the right. Do we forget that everybody has the right endowed to us by our Creator to defend ourselves? Does that change because somebody's Russian? Does that change because somebody's Venezuelan or Australian or African? Does that change? Are Africans and Venezuelans and Russians and are they not created by God? Are they a lesser people? They're fear-mongering. And now I'm going to lay out my case with that. So these are the headlines that you're seeing, and there's a ton of them. You can go, every news site under the sun, pretty much, has articles like this today. I put this one out earlier. This is RT, as you know. I get a lot of my news and information from RT. Do they have Russian propaganda? Probably. But they are the most accurate of any news organization that I see out there. Hands down. Hands down. And that don't sit well with a lot of people, because the truth doesn't sit well with a lot of people. It's not my problem. I have one job. My job is to come here and report the news and to do it in as much honesty and truthfulness as I can. And so it is what it is. RT and Sputnik are about the straightest news organizations out there. Anyway. One second, let me, okay, if there was a clickbait headline competition, Fox News has just produced one that could easily win it. That's where this rumor started. The network said one of its guests believes Russia has nuclear missiles in Venezuela, and presumably no one but him noticed. To be clear, there are no Russian nukes in Venezuela, as far as any open evidence or official statements go. Representative Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida, whose appearance on Tucker Carlson Tonight on Tuesday sparked the flashy headline, doesn't appear to believe there are any either. But that doesn't stop a really determined, traffic-hungry editor from insinuating the opposite. Diaz-Balart and Carlson debated if the presence of what the Fox host called the world's bad guys in Venezuela poses a national security threat to the United States. One of the bad guys in both men's view is, of course, Russia, which deployed a small contingent of military personnel to the Latin American country. Carlson pressured Diaz-Balart about his insistence that failing to act against Russia in Venezuela posed a threat to America itself. Let me just read this part here, and then we're going to play the video. It's kind of hard to see what you're talking about. Are you suggesting that they are going to invade? Carlton asks. The United States, the closest we have ever came to nuclear war was because the Russians put nuclear missiles in Cuba, Diaz-Balart said, referring to the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Are you saying the Russians will put nuclear missiles in Venezuela, Carlson asks? What I am suggesting is that they are already there, Diaz-Balart said. Now, you're going to hear this in the video, but let me clarify what this imbecile meant. This imbecile meant Russia is already in Venezuela, not that Russian nukes were already in Venezuela. Okay? That's all you will see. We're going to let this video play in its entirety, and you are going to see that this guy is a complete imbecile, and that Tucker Carlson, the only decent one on mainstream media today, Tucker Carlson kept trying to get him to answer simple, basic questions, and this guy, you was thinking he was doing the mamba dancing around all the questions. The guy never did answer one single question that Tucker asked. Okay? But, Fox News and others want to hang on one statement. They want to, I'm trying to think of the word, misguide or mislead on one statement that this guy said. This is unbelievable, okay? If this was true, right? If this was true and this guy just let out some big secret, some big confidential military secret, he would be in a lot of trouble right now. Ask Julian Assange about that. He would be in a lot of big trouble right now. So use a little common sense when you debate in your mind whether or not this guy meant there were nukes there or not. Common sense goes a long way. The Bible teaches discernment. Probably one of the most important things that the Bible could teach is discernment. But nonetheless, let's get to the video. Let's hear it from the horse. I hope. Hang on, it'll play. If not, I'll refresh it. Hang on, let me refresh the page here. I know you can. It'll load. Give it time.
To find out, we're joined tonight by Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart of Florida. Congressman, thanks very much for coming on. So I can see a lot of ways this would be helpful to factions within Venezuela, maybe to the country as a whole. How would intervening in Venezuela help your constituents, American citizens?
Tucker, when you talk about foreign policy, U.S. foreign policy, the number one principle has to be the national security interest of the United States.
So
absolutely, and that's above anything and everything else.
Right.
So the question is, does the situation in Venezuela present a national security threat to the United States? So what do we know? We know that there are 20 to 25,000 Cubans in Venezuela. We know that there are Russian troops in Venezuela. We know that we have Hezbollah, Iranian presence in Venezuela. We know that we have Chinese presence in Venezuela. So is that a potential risk for the national security interests of the United States? Absolutely. The question is, if that's the case, and some may disagree that having all those folks there is a problem. I don't. I think it's a national security threat for the United States. If that's the case, what steps should the United States do?
Okay, so wait a minute here. Hang on. That's a national security threat to the United States. Well, let's take a peek at that. Okay? Let's take a peek at that big ass threat, right? Let's zoom out of my hometown here. Whoa, we're a little high up in the air. I'm scared of heights. Okay, Venezuela. There's Venezuela right there. That guy's in Florida, which is right there. We'll get them both on the map here. So we've got Venezuela right here. We've got Florida right here. So all of these people here are a national threat. A serious national threat, and we need to invade. We need to take military action right now because of all the people that's down here. And Canada, with open arms, which is right here, by the way, right up against the United States. They opened with open arms refugee white helmets. Yes, refugee white helmets with open arms. Come on in. Right? And we don't need to worry about that. White helmets, they're fine. They're fine. They worked for us over there in the sandbox. They're fine. Right? We don't need to worry about that, or we don't need to worry about all the other refugees that Trudeau's letting flood into their borders. Right? We don't got to worry about any of that. That's not a threat. That's not a threat. But Venezuela, right? Ooh. They could get in a rowboat. Yeah, they could get in a rowboat and invade us, right? 5 at a time. It is slow kill. Slow kill. Let's get real. This guy is trying to fear-monger you to death because there's people from other countries down here in South America. He's trying to fear-monger you to death into thinking that it's a huge national security threat here just because they are right here. Okay, whatever. Continue on. Okay, speak, Ubu, speak. Oh, don't tell me. I may have to just let this play through without interrupting it because... Okay. Let me refresh the page. I won't interrupt the video again. How dare I? How dare I speak to common sense while the video plays? Let me fast forward it here to where we were.
To find out, we're joined tonight by Congressman.
What steps should the United States do to protect our national security interests?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think no one is surprised that the world's bad guys are congregated in a country like Venezuela. We've seen similar things happen many times in history. The question is, does intervening help the situation, and does it help the United States? That's the really simple question.
And that's a very good question, and I would tell you that military intervention always has to be the last thing
well,
that
Rick
we should
Scott, your senator is saying it should be the first thing.
No, I think
care about humanity and want to stop genocide, we need to intervene.
No, I think...
Why is that not crazy?
Well, because I think what Rick Scott is aware of is that, in my opinion, in his opinion, that there is a huge national security threat to the United States. And then the question is...
What exactly is the threat? I mean, please be specific.
To be specific, when you have a country that we now have Middle Easterns with real legal Venezuelan passports that we have found. You have Hezbollah, you have Cuba, you have Iran, you have Russia, you have China there. So imagine if this regime that now is receiving a lot of international pressure, right, survives. Is it or is it not potentially a green light, an open door for the Russians, for the Chinese, for others to increase their activity against our national security interests right here in our hemisphere?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's kind of hard to see what you're talking about exactly. Are you suggesting they're going to invade?
No, they don't have... Look, the United States, the closest we ever came to nuclear war was because the Russians put missiles, right, nuclear missiles, in Cuba.
So imagine the Russians are going to put nuclear missiles in Venezuela?
What I'm suggesting is that they're already there. What I'm suggesting, I'm not suggesting...
Why should I care if they're there? I mean, no offense, but...
Right. Well, and I think it's a very valid question. Why should we care what the Chinese, what the Russians do anywhere around the world? But I think particularly we should care what they're doing in this hemisphere, in our own hemisphere.
Okay. But the Chinese, as you know, have built infrastructure in virtually every country in this hemisphere.
That's a different animal.
I don't think it is. We haven't done anything about it. And so they have a small number of Russian advisors there, and I'm supposed to think it's a threat. Because why? No one really explains. Why should I not be worried about 8 million people leaving Venezuela and some of them coming here? Why would we give any of them temporary protected status?
Well, no, we clearly should. But remember, the reason that they are fleeing in Venezuela, from Venezuela. By the way, what 20 years ago was one of the wealthiest countries in the planet, right, is because of this tyrannical regime, anti-American regime, with close ties to the worst thugs and anti-American...
Look, I'm not defending Maduro at all. I'm just wondering, So our interest
the
is not
reason
to have
they're leaving-
gas prices spike?
No. Let me try to get to your
Okay.
point, because I think you make a very valid point. The reason Venezuelans are leaving is precisely because of that regime. It is the largest refugee crisis this hemisphere has ever seen. And by the way, we spent a lot of time, obviously, focusing on the Middle East. There are more refugees that have left Venezuela than left Syria.
I get it. That's why I'm worried about making it worse. So let
You
me
do
just
not make it worse. You do not make it worse by helping the Venezuelan people get rid of the regime that's causing
you
that to
make
happen.
it worse by saying in public, as you have said, that
Right.
if you make it here illegally, we'll let you stay, and that we'll give you amnesty, which you have said.
No.
That you have suggested temporary protected status for Venezuelans who are here illegally.
Here's
And why is
what-
that not an inducement?
And I think it's a very good question. Look, the reason the Venezuelans are in Colombia, in Brazil, again, over 3 million have already left Venezuela, and the forecasts are that if the Maduro regime persists, and that's to the point that you were making, you're going to have another 5 million leaving. So that is caused by that regime. So it's in our interest, if all we care about is stopping that from happening, we have to do what we can to make sure that that regime is no longer there.
Or
Now-
that the regime remains there, but that there isn't a scene like this, that there aren't fires and conflict. I mean, that's kind of the message from Syria. But let me just ask you really quickly, everyone in Washington, bipartisan, not just you, lots of Democrats too, for these sanctions on Venezuela because the government is bad. I think the government's bad, I agree, fine. But those sanctions have increased the price of gasoline for middle-class Americans. So, because why exactly? How do they benefit from that? I'm confused by that.
Tucker, the Venezuelan oil company, the proceeds of that money, of those funds, go directly to the regime. The regime uses it for not only repressing their people, but for, again, anti-American activities. Now,
well, what's more anti-American than rising gas prices?
Well,
Doesn't that actually hurt Americans more than anything the Venezuelans have ever done?
If you look at the production of Venezuelan oil, it has been dropping dramatically because it's a socialist disaster country. But even though the revenue is going down, 100% of that revenue, I shouldn't say 100%, but pretty much 100% of the revenue is used by the Venezuelan regime to do nefarious things.
Okay.
But let me tell you,
We're almost out of time.
I commend the Trump administration because they've done a very responsible job trying to pressure the regime, help the Venezuelan people to avoid a catastrophe that that one day might force the United States to have to intervene.
Okay. Well, I hope that day is far away. Congressman, thanks very much for explaining all that. I appreciate it.
Great pleasure to be with you.
Okay. So, and one of the biggest arguments of how horrible things are in Venezuela is because of the people that's leaving Venezuela, right? So that's one of the big arguments that you're constantly hearing is about how many people are fleeing Venezuela. Well, did you know this? Record numbers of Americans want to leave the U.S. Were you aware of that? 40% of women younger than 30 would like to leave the U.S. 22% who disapprove of Trump would like to move versus 7% who approve. So let's go with the number in between there, right? Let's just go with 10, right? Let's just go with 10%. If 10% of the people in the United States wanted to leave, and there's roughly, do the math, there's roughly 350 million people in the United States, okay? Wouldn't that be what? 3.5 million people? So you could say millions of people want to flee the U.S. So first off, let's put that into perspective here, okay? Because there's a lot of people that want to leave a lot of countries, plain and simple. And they have different reasons, whether it's their president, which I think is a really stupid reason, or whether it's taxes or whatever the case may be, or the lack of freedoms, the taking away of freedoms like I think is happening here in the U.S. Whatever the reason may be, record numbers of people around the world are migrating, by the way. All the countries are going through something similar. So first off, let's throw that idiocy out of the way. They love to throw this stuff around, but they never look at themselves. They never bring up the facts about the good old USA when they're too busy talking about other countries trying to push other countries into the ground. So let's put a little perspective on that, okay? And I went low, by the way. They're saying 40% of women younger than 30, 22% of them disapprove of Trump, 7 who approve. I just went with 10, okay? I just took 3 from the disapprove list and added to the approved list. Okay? 10. 10 from 40%, not a lot. Not a lot. So I would say the number would probably be more accurately like around 20, which would be what? 7 million people wanting to flee the U.S.? You have to watch, because they will use statistics to steer your opinion, to steer your emotions. Okay? So if you've got somebody throwing statistics at you, make sure you get all of the statistics. Don't just settle with the statistics they give you. Do your own homework. Get some of the other statistics too. Okay, so that, first of all, I wanted to knock that out of the way. Second of all, okay, Tucker had mentioned this protective deal that they want to make to these millions of Venezuelans that are fleeing, right? So if we're so worried about the people that are down there in Venezuela, why are we giving them a protective status in the United States? And Tucker was trying to ask that question. The guy wouldn't answer any of Tucker's questions. Did you notice that? He would not directly answer any of Tucker's questions, not one. He would dance around them, completely dance around them. But I wanted to point out, most importantly, he was not indicating that Russia had nukes in Venezuela. And I'm not saying Russia don't have nukes in Venezuela. What I'm saying is that is not what this guy was saying. He was saying that Russia is already in Venezuela, that they're already there in Venezuela. But, you know, it was funny because Tucker asked him the question, well, what should I care where Russians are at? What should I care? And the guy's like, well, you make a very good valid point, but what we need to be asking ourselves is, you know, should they be in the Western Hemisphere? Did Tucker's question not apply to that? He said, what do I care? The guy danced around it completely because their whole scheme down there is falling apart. Their whole reasoning for going down there and invading just isn't there. But they're trying to pull something out of thin air so they can get down there and get dirty. Because they need control of that country because they want its resources. Bolton's already come right out and said it. How more direct do you want to hear it? Bolton actually said it. A couple months or so ago, he said it. My God, folks. And like I say, the timing speaks everything to this. Failed coup yesterday, after multiple attempts, even after shutting down their power grid multiple times. You know, the people of Venezuela want Maduro in. Plain and simple. If they didn't want Maduro in, wouldn't there have been a hell of a lot more people yesterday involved in ousting him? And then you had Pompeo talking about how, and this is in the news too, and I called this yesterday, by the way, I called it out right here on the show. When Pompeo was saying about how Maduro was on his plane and ready to flee the country. No, he wasn't. I'm not saying he didn't have a plane ready in case he needed to, but he wasn't on it. It wasn't to that point. This whole thing, it goes right back to my point that media is one of the most dangerous things to us. And with Trump not lifting a finger to re-enable the Smith-Mundt Act speaks volumes. They want to, even currently, this current administration wants to propagandize you and use the media to do it. And that is proof. Proof. If that's not the case, then he needs to re-enable the act. Plain and simple. Stroke of a pen, boom. Smith-Mundt Act, re-enabled. Simple. It doesn't take years to do that. So, folks, if we keep on this road, we won't get through May without being in a global conflict. We won't. And it looks like that's where we're heading right now. I would advise each and every one of you, I've been saying it, I know I've been saying it, I sound like a broken record, and I know it. But I felt it down to my very core that we better be wrapping things up with preparedness because we don't have time to be dilly-dallying. That time's done came and gone. Do whatever it is you can. If you've got a few more bucks to be able to buy a little more rice and some beans, go do it. Jen picked up 300 cotton balls from the store today. Right? $3. Woo. Big spenders, right? Do what you can. Do what you can. I'm telling you, this is going to get ugly, and when it does, it's going to get ugly fast. And with them wanting to clear that airspace up to 26,000 feet, speaks volumes. Speaks volumes. That isn't political games there. Anyway, be mindful. Be mindful, because I'm telling you, the disinformation campaign is unreal. And I don't know if that was this guy's intention. Honestly, I don't. I think it was just a doofus, to be honest. I don't think it was an intention to start that rumor. But that's all it is. It's a rumor. You see where it came from. It's a non-thing. And it's probably important for all those people out there that went around spreading the story about the nukes in Venezuela. Why don't you do the opposite and go spread information about the truth? About how Fox News and all these other outlets want to fearmonger you into backing an invasion into Venezuela for the big corporations, big oil, and the military-industrial complex. See, a lot of people that claim to have courage, show me the courage. Go tell people the truth. Show me the courage. Anyway, let me go ahead and read through the headlines. And this is where that went out that I posted last night, actually. U.S. prohibits American pilots and planes to fly in Venezuelan airspace. NSA unmasking of American surveillance targets peaked in 2018, new report says. Fake news to cover failed coup. Venezuelan, Russia respond to Pompeo's claim Maduro almost fled. That's what I was talking about. And, that's what I called out yesterday during the monologue yesterday. I called that out and said that was bullshit. And yes, indeed, now it's confirmation. Bullshit. Globalization is waning. U.S. and China deal won't solve that, says a strategist. Anybody buying this? Twitterati attack Zuckerberg privacy roadmap for Facebook. U.S. Air Force deploys F-35As on their first combat mission in Afghanistan. Because we're not there at war anymore. Even less info for taxpayers. U.S. drops key metric on Western-backed government control of Afghanistan. One second. Julian Assange sentenced to 50 weeks in jail for jumping bail in UK. Tear gas fired during May Day demonstrations in Paris. Scores detained. U.S. military action in Venezuela possible if that's what's required, says Pompeo. Yeah, if that's what's required for big oil and major corporations and the military-industrial complex. A shocking and vindictive WikiLeaks slams UK prison sentence for Assange over skipped bail. New Zealand media ban reporting of Christchurch shooters' white supremacist statements at trial. How do you like that, right? How do you like that? They don't want people talking about that. A woman sentenced to die for starving her 10-year-old stepdaughter to death. She's going to die by lethal injection, which isn't nearly as cruel as what she deserves. 1 in 7 Japanese homes empty as building boom rubs shoulders with shrinking population. Russia has nukes in Venezuela. Fox News seemingly misrepresents guests' claim, and that's what we just went over. U.S. test launches nuclear-capable Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile. Ooh, right? I mean, look at the things we're doing. It's unreal the things we're doing. Mueller to testify to Congress on Russiagate probe in May. Pakistan threatens greater retaliation in future clashes with India. Violation of international law. Lavrov warns Pompeo over destructive interference in Venezuela's affairs. Bullying U.S. to blame if conflict breaks out with American troops, says Iran's deputy foreign minister. Vandals burned several beehives in Texas, killing an estimated 500,000 bees. That's insane. That's insane. Arizona has passed the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. That is awesome. I made sure to put out that information. I posted the other day when it was passed in their legislature, and today it was actually signed by the governor. So congratulations to Arizona, and I hope many, many, many other states are to follow. Cause of death for Sumner County mass killing victims revealed. Troll Twitter account baits Trump into retweet, then changes name to fuck Donald Trump. How do you like that? That's like awesome trolling, is it not? I'm not, folks, I'm here to do the news. I'm not for Trump. I'm not against Trump. I'm here to do the news. I should be neither, right? As should any other news media. And that's hilarious. Regardless, it don't matter who you are. That's hilarious. That's some good trolling there. Florida teachers allowed guns in classroom under new law. And lastly here, Assange extradition process is life and death for him and for journalism itself, says the WikiLeaks editor. So there you go. That is the news headlines. Let me go ahead and get you guys going on the rest of the show. Of course, we will be joining up with Prepper Nurse 1 at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're here for the live show, stick around. We will be live until 8 p.m. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything. For those that just watch the monologue or you're watching the recording thereof, thank you very much. As always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit.